I shot Justin Trudeau. That's probably the most random one, but like the most, I think that probably is the most famous. And then I was able to shoot, I think Denzel Curry last year, which is, I think that's probably the most interesting one to a lot of people, realizing that a lot of these people are just like normal people. They just happen to be really good at something.
Justin Trudeau to Denzel Curry. That is versatility, my guy.
I try, bro.
You know what? We gonna, we about to take off. Yeah, you know what? We about to take off.
Welcome back to season 2 of Before We Take Off. As always, I am your host, Mufaro. And today on the show, I am joined by Panashe Mugayapi, a Zimbabwean-born, UK-raised, Melbourne-based photographer and creative director whose work spans fashion, editorial, portrait, events, and campaign photography. But beyond the camera, Nash's work is really about identity, presence, and representation. Nash, welcome to the Launchpad, my bro.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, man. And thank you for opening up this season 2, and you're the first guest on our return. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
No. As I said, it's a pleasure to be here. Always happy to speak to you, and hopefully we have a great episode.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. But hey, let's dive straight into it. Tell me, or tell us, I should say, for the people who are discovering you for the first time, who's Panashe?
Yeah, it's like you said, I grew up in a lot of different spaces and cultures. I was originally born in Zimbabwe, moved to the UK where I was very young, where I lived in Liverpool. Shout out the Beatles, Steven Gerrard, all that type of stuff. And then moved to Melbourne, Australia, just in my late teens. And I've been here for the last 10 years or so. And through all those things, I guess I've just had a wide range of different inspirations and sources that I tap into for photography and like just my interests and stuff like that. And, I would say I'm very privileged to have been influenced by so many things, which has allowed me to do the things that I do. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and first of all, like, not you just naming a whole bunch of Liverpool legends just then, like, just name dropping a whole bunch of people from Liverpool. That's crazy, man. But yeah, so you were born in Zim, raised in the UK, and you're here in Melbourne. Like, how has that movement kind of shaped the way you see the world and the environment around you?
One thing that's made me realize is that we're all so different, but a lot of us are also so similar. So I think back to the friends and the people and the company I kept around in my younger years. And now that I'm here, the people who I've become closest to here, there's a lot of parallels and, there's a lot of kinship. There's a lot of things where I feel like the love and the inspiration from around them, been able to learn like a lot. And I keep my friendships very solid, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
All this movement around is or allowed me to meet a lot of different cultures, I guess. Ever since a young age, I've always had friends of, different sexual orientations or racial orientations, whatever habit, nationalities. And through knowing all these different people, it's allowed me to expand my work in a lot of different ways. Obviously, I guess right now, a lot of my work is focusing or centering around Africans or Black people, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of the influences that I have personally outside of that and a lot of my other work come from like, my friends who are white, my friends who are Asian, stuff like that. I've always been very interested in like learning about other cultures and, always cool to tap into something and like hopefully through my work show some level of appreciation for it, not appropriation, and just let that continue to constantly inspire me.
Yeah, I love that because I think I'm the same. Like, I definitely love to learn about other cultures, other religions, because I think it makes the world such a more fascinating place. If we remain so boxed into just what we know and what we're comfortable with, like, how do we grow and how do we learn? So yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, just being fluid with everything just allows you to enjoy and experience so much more in life, really.
Yeah,
When you don't put yourself in a box, I think it's more fun and enjoyable that way.
that's it. And it makes life a lot more interesting, right?
Yeah, for real, for real.
But like, I'm curious, like, who would you say are your biggest inspirations in life? Maybe not just in photography, but just generally speaking.
Ooh, that's a hard one. So completely outside of photography, like one of my biggest inspirations is actually a basketball player. There's
Yeah.
a basketball player called Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Played for most famously the Oklahoma City Thunder. And basically during like his MVP campaign and a lot of his younger career, he had like a slogan where it was basically "Why not?" I think Derrick Rose also used something similar. And basically, it's just always been a case for me. It was like, why not me? Why can't I do something where I can't? Why can't I succeed? Why can't I tap into things? So I guess with my photography career being, I guess we would be first generation Africans. Would it be? Is that? Yeah, I think that's the correct term.
Yeah.
Well, first generation children are always taught to go get certain careers, doctors,
Yeah.
nurses, engineers, and stuff like that. And, that was a previous field that I was doing. But I guess in my late teens, I really fell in love with photography and like visual arts. And essentially, I took that leap a little bit later on in my mid 20s of, why can't I be a photographer? Why can't I, make money off this? Why can't I, make this my day job and, do a full time freelance and stuff like that? So,
Mm.
that's a big inspiration, Russell Westbrook, of like why, you just do whatever you want to do, really. I'm really inspired by a lot of different film directors, just showing me like different ways that you can showcase your art. They say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. A lot of, someone can take a photo of something, like 100 people can take the same photo of the exact same thing, but how a different director or a different photographer will compose that same scene or compose the lighting can give it a completely different feel. Uh,
Yeah.
so I just try and tap into a lot of different people. I guess you could say in like the last few years, I've really loved the work of Tyler Mitchell. He has a really famous book. It's escaping me right now. I have it on the coffee table. So I've been looking at a lot of his work. He explores a lot of Black culture, specifically, I believe, in the UK and America. I've been really into Korean films, so I look at a lot of like their lighting and their composition and things like that. And right now, I'm being really inspired by just a handful of European photographers and just trying to take little bits of that into my work as best as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, tell me, like, what's your earliest memory of like picking up the camera and deciding that this could be a cool thing,
It's really interesting. I didn't my first love was actually like basketball and music. So
right?
I never really had a specific interest in visual media, I guess you could say. I always loved it, but never thought it was specifically for me. My earliest memory of picking up a camera is actually a really funny story. It's kind of disrespectful to a few. Once again, late teens, I was at uni and some friend at the time really just needed me to model for like his streetwear brand, something like that, and we took the photos were good or whatever. That ended up leading to me, people being like, oh yeah, we saw you on Instagram. Do you mind just taking some photos for our little thing or whatever? And I remember taking photos for people and once again, disrespectful. I remember thinking like, oh, these guys suck. um, I reckon I can do better. So
Yeah.
I remember just buying like a little point and shoot from a friend and then taking some photos myself and I fell in love with the process. And I remember that first year, I wasn't really focusing so much on portraiture. I was focusing a lot on capturing my friends as we were doing the things that you do at that age, going traveling. And then I remember I went to, I believe it was Japan in 2020, just before COVID hit. And for some reason, I had just bought a medium format camera. I bought a Mamiya RZ67. I remember just saying to myself, I'm going to travel around Japan with my friends and take as much photos of the architecture or whatever. And I remember during that trip, I really fell in love with it. And when I came back, I continued to just do that for as long as possible, and I started doing things for other people's brands, other people's projects, and that just continuously kept rolling over until I realized like this is like probably like my favorite hobby now, something that I just do without even thinking. having a period where I always had a camera on me at every single point.
Yeah.
And those like my earliest memories of photography. Just it was just for fun. It was just to document the things around me, and then that just progressed into okay, how do I solve problems, and how do I express how I'm feeling, or potentially how a client is feeling,
Mm.
and and how can we reach the people through my eye, I guess you could say.
In that, was there a first shoot or project that really made you feel like this is what you wanted to do long term? Like, I know you mentioned the process of kind of, I don't know, stumbling into it as a bit of a hobby, and then like the more and more you did it, the more and more you fell in love with it. So, like, what was the moment where you were like, actually, this is maybe my career, my calling?
Probably when someone paid me would be a good answer.
That's always how it is, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what my first, handful of shoots would have been. Um, I remember a friend had a reselling business. So they were reselling clothes, and they had liked my photos, and they were like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna be doing like a big campaign pop-up thing, and we want you to take the photos for it." And we discussed the budget, the whatnots, and like what the overall direction was. And I remember getting some friends on to model for me. I remember, getting some friends to be stylists and make a whole production of it. And I just fell in love with the process of, something. So I'm kind of a, I wouldn't say I'm a type A or type B. Like I just like knowing how things operate. And I remember like just organizing and scheduling all of this. A lot of people don't think creativity requires a certain level of organization or foresight and thinking. I remember that combination of breaking it all down into pieces to actually achieve something. When that all came together, I remember falling in love with it because it was like, all right, cool. I can control the scene. I can control all these variables to create something that hopefully inspires people. So I think that's probably one of my earliest ones. And then I guess how I started to really see myself more as a creative is when I started doing more long form projects, such as my book, my idea, my series I've been doing, Beautiful Black Boys. I remember when the idea started to formulate into my head and how I could expand this further, that really changed something in me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I know you did mention before, like you had this moment or this realization of how can I solve problems through capturing the world or capturing people through my lens, right? So I guess when you are capturing someone, what would you say you're trying to really get a hold of before just, beyond how they look?
Yeah, it really depends on the project itself. I think having a little bit of experience in this field now, it sometimes depends on if you're shooting an event, it's about capturing the feel of the night or what's going on, the energy and the tone. And I focus more on that. If I'm shooting like some sort of e-commerce product, it's really much about how much can I focus on one, making the person who's wearing the clothes look good, but like making the clothes look good themselves. And like, how do you highlight those little things and like these small little details and, getting a stylist on or getting someone who knows a little bit more about light than me or just building this world to achieve this goal. And then I guess my favorite thing is portraiture and architectural stuff. It really is about showcase. I really love showcasing the beauty in people and basically how I see them. A lot of my work does focus on people of color and people from certain backgrounds that might not be as represented in bigger media, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And it's about you know, this comes back to what I was saying before when I was modeling and, these photos I didn't like. I just felt like certain people weren't capturing me right. And me as, a person of color myself, when I shoot a lot of people of color, I just want them to be accurately represented, or at least how I see them, which is hopefully in a positive light. And that's really a big focus on my work.
Because like, yeah, it's one of those things, like you said, it's really important to capture and I guess communicate the true essence of somebody. And I guess a lot of your work does feel like it has that level of intention and intimacy in a sense. Now, I've had the pleasure of working with you and being captured by you, but I'm curious in terms of your mindset when it goes into working with people. Like, how do you build trust with someone in front of the lens?
That's a very interesting question. So I like to have a very structured approach. There's a quote that my dad used to always say, a person who doesn't plan for anything doesn't really achieve anything.
Yeah.
So I definitely like to plan. So I like to get my mood boards ready. I like to get what we're trying to capture and set that scene. And I want to present that to the people ahead of time so that they know what they're in for, if they're comfortable with the process, if they're comfortable with what we're aiming to do. So that's the initial step that I always take. And then I guess the second step is really about when you're shooting. I like to have an approach on set that I can be a goofy guy.
Mhm.
I don't always like being super serious on set. Obviously, we're there to work, we're there to achieve and do something, but at the same time, like being in a creative field it's fun. It's a blessing that a lot of people don't get to do. So we should enjoy it as we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I try and joke with the team. I try and make it very lighthearted. I try and compliment people as we're going, within appropriate levels, just break down some of those boundaries of why people don't like being captured. A lot of people, especially in my work, I shoot a lot of men right now, they don't like being captured, um, especially in a, let's say, beautiful or let's even say sometimes feminine way. It's about just making them feel comfortable in that space as we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Just trying to accept them for who they are and then presenting the best version of themselves, hopefully, through my lens. That's what I aim to do. Just be very lighthearted in my approach, really.
Yeah, for sure. And so with that, I guess I do now want to pivot and talk about Beautiful Black Boys. So like, yeah, first of all, tell us what it is and where did that project begin for you?
Yeah, so the project was inspired by a few different friends who thought I had a way of capturing people and that I should explore a longer term project. And I think at this time in the Melbourne sphere, there was an uptick, but not so much black male representation in media, in fashion campaigns and stuff like that. And I just kind of wanted to do my own version. So the project was originally just supposed to be a fashion project of just taking people in some cool clothes, going to like cool scenes and, doing things like that. And over time, the idea just kept building and building. And I realized that there was something here and that, this can be a little, maybe a time capsule, maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, a documentary, a fashion documentary of, predominantly African Australian males. Hopefully it might expand to other countries as well. Just documenting different black male identifying men in a lot of different scenes and a lot of different colors, in different sexualities and different, body shapes, skin tones, stuff like that. And, the idea just kept expanding and expanding to different things. At the start of the day, this was only supposed to be something that I was going to do for Instagram and whatever. And then, you know, once again, it's been a blessing that this idea has blossomed into, like an exhibition, working on the book and trying to hopefully do some other small collaborations and things of that nature for the project.
Mm,
Yeah. So that's how it started and that's where it's at, maybe.
for sure. And like, what would you say, you know, you wanted to challenge or celebrate or reframe throughout that series?
The one big thing that I wanted to tackle with this project is, especially when I moved to Melbourne, I remember there was certain things that were going around. Like, I believe there was something called like I don't know if there was this thing called Apex Gang, where it was I
Yeah.
guess you could
Yeah.
say it was a lot of young, darker skinned Australians were being targeted. They were always the perpetrator and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the media was very negative, and there is a lot of projects specifically deal with that and racism in Australia.
Yeah.
And those projects are super important. I didn't want to specifically tackle that issue myself. I didn't want to specifically combat that narrative. I wanted to create a new narrative. I wanted to create the narrative that we are beautiful, that we have a lot of love and respect, and that we have a lot of culture and a lot of things that we provide and give to the people. I wanted to document that for us, but also to show other people who we are. And that's why it was a very big focus of mine to try and capture as many different people who still sit in this category that we are, um, human, that we are, we're multifaceted and layered, and that we have so many positives about our community, and the relationships that we hold together is so much stronger than the negative narratives maybe that might be out there in the world. So that was the big thing that I was trying to tackle. And, that was my initial purpose. And over time, I've collaborated with other people who are handling that other narrative, and it still works together every once in a while to, achieve our goal. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's definitely a powerful kind of mission to have because I definitely think that, those kinds of stories of love and care and compassion, those are the real stories that are, I guess, missing from the mainstream conversation, particularly when it comes to like, young black men.
Mm.
That definitely was a big thing, yes, in Melbourne for a while, and I know that parts of it are still going, and you still see it online on social media, like all the microaggressions. Some of them are just aggressions. Like people
Yeah.
are not even afraid. People aren't even embarrassed to to say some of these stupid things online. But I think it's um I think it's a powerful message and a powerful point to kind of, yeah, put the people who look like us at the forefront and change that narrative. Maybe not even change the narrative, but then give people a new perspective. Because yeah, I
Yeah.
always say to disagree with someone, you have to completely understand their point of view.
Mhm.
Has creating work around identity and representation changed the way like you understand or view yourself?
Definitely. This project was honestly the full blown where this project came from a friend who challenged me to basically explore myself. One benefit of growing in such a multicultural society is you get to know so much about other cultures, but
Mhm,
also in some aspects, not always, but I can speak for me that I did lose maybe parts of my identity of who I am and where I come from and things like that. So this project also was for me to reconnect with myself and you know my Black identity, my Zimbabwean heritage and stuff and things of that nature. So it definitely taught me, it definitely, I started to become more educated on certain issues and certain concepts, things like intersectionality, for example, like, obviously like I'm a Black man and I go through my issues, but it's different than, a Black woman or, someone who is Black and, a different sexuality, for example.
mhm,
And so that level of understanding with these issues has basically changed my approach. It's changed the way that I see myself, other people, and other people's struggles. Like now it's like, all right, cool. My understanding of my project has helped me to understand other people just a little bit better. And, and I would like to think it's made me like a better person. I would like to
mhm.
think so, but, it's an ongoing journey and, I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah. And like, there is a level of, for lack of a better term, let's say vulnerability in the sense that you're putting out your own personal work. You're an artist, you're sensitive about your shit, right? So like, has there been like what's been the most meaningful, I guess, response or reaction you've received to someone who's connected with your work?
Well, I recently just had an exhibition. Um, my first exhibition that I was a part of, and it had a really great turnout. a lot of people, not to toot my own horn, a lot of people showed out, a lot of people loved it. And, just to see your work be appreciated for what it is, people read the blurbs, people read like what the actual project description was about. That was really, touching and heartfelt to me. But I remember I actually got over the years and recently at the exhibition, after the exhibition, I got a message from someone a little bit older than me, and he was talking about how in his life he's an African Australian himself, and he feels that growing up he didn't get this level of representation. Our stories weren't told, and that he loved what I was doing, and that he really wanted to congratulate me for going down this path and just trying to tell our stories. And he wants to, he definitely wants me to finish this book, and he wants to see this in its final stages. And that type of thing it gave me that extra push and confidence to keep going. Sometimes with creative work, you just never know if it's reaching anybody or if it's just for yourself. It's a vanity project. And the fact that it was able to like touch somebody in any capacity, and it made them want to reach out and discuss it further, was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a cool feeling, right? When someone appreciates the work beyond like what they can just see at first hand. Like they appreciate the detail behind it.
Yeah. It's no, it's amazing. Once again, only word I can say for it is it's a blessing. It's very hard to be a creative and actually make work that resonates with people. And it might just be the one, who knows? But
Mm.
you know, inspiring one person is better than inspiring none. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
And that's how I approach that.
And do you think you'd ever take, I guess, your journey back to the UK, back to Zim or any other country and like capture people there?
Um, I don't want to say too much. I mean, but hopefully that is the plan.
Yeah.
Once again, this idea has been constantly expanding. It got to a point where I just thought it was going to be in Melbourne. I've done a couple of people not from Melbourne. I'm planning to, hopefully do a couple of trips in the upcoming year or two. And yeah, definitely I have plans to shoot other people in different places, and hopefully it ends up being so much bigger than what it is. No, definitely. That's definitely something that's on the cards, something that I want personally. It always comes down to money, time, and arrangements. But I would love to I'd love to take it international for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey man, we're cheering for you. We can't wait to see it. We can't wait to see it. I want to know more about like, you've really turned this into, I guess, your career, especially over the last few years.
Mm.
What's been one of the hardest lessons about turning this creativity into a career?
Being a businessman, like at the end of the day, a lot of creative stuff is, if you want to, I have to eat. So
Yeah.
it has to be a business. So I think the hardest thing is one, turning yourself into a business. So, the classic things of setting up your correct channels to get in contact with people, just the legal requirements, the business requirements. And that's probably going to be the stock standard answer. But I think one of the hardest things that people don't understand about, sometimes trying to be a freelancer or a full-time creative is keeping a passion at the same time while trying to, make money off it. So as I said, I transitioned more into, I guess, the money side of things is things like maybe like events or campaigns and things of that nature. How I still make sure that I still have a love for what I'm doing is I like to mix that up with things that don't make me money, passion projects. I still try and do things in community that fulfills me. I still love just taking my camera out if my friends are going camping, or, I'm traveling to a different city, different country, taking my camera, still taking photos of architecture, and, just doing it for fun, not just
Yeah.
doing it because it is, a career at this point. So I think those are the two hardest things that I've had to balance, as well as, in addition to like that first thing in the same realm, time management. You
Yeah.
have to be on top of your stuff, bro. Trying to definitely get things scheduled, getting in the correct room with people, and getting your work done on time, being a reliable vendor, being someone that people can trust, and they want to work with you multiple times over, and you build those relationships and that connection. And final point of what's been really hard, or one of the things that people need to consider about doing this type of thing, is once again, everyone wants money, everyone wants to eat. But when it comes to creative work, a mentor of mine, and a really amazing artist in Melbourne, a guy called Marcos Diaz, goes by Diggable Goods on his socials. He told me very early on in a lot of stuff that relationships matter more than anything
Mm,
in these type of industries. So, at the end of the day, some people say it's not what you know, it's who you know. There's a little bit of truth in that. It's not so much who you know, it's, when you interact with people, how do you make them feel?
yeah.
Do they, I would say I'm a good photographer, but there's also other good photographers. Why certain people come to me is because they have a relationship with me where they're like, oh, Nash he's a cool person to be around, maybe.
Yeah.
He delivers his work on time. When we see each other in networking or certain event spaces, it's not just about work. It's, you talk about how life is, your common interest, is there something here more than just work? And, it's those type of things that really make people come back to you or give you that first shot. And,
Yeah.
doing the tit for tats, things like that, helping out once again, serving in community. It's stuff like that that really goes a long way in what I believe to be a successful creative nowadays. So yeah, I think it's those three things all together are hard
Yeah.
that I've had to really focus on. But yeah,
That's, my question after that was gonna be like how you balance personal creative projects with commercial or client work. Like you've answered that. So I guess what I want to ask instead is how do you protect your creative vision when collaborating with clients or brands or even other creatives? Because I imagine, you have a particular style or like a particular ways of working. And sometimes maybe it doesn't align with the people you're working with. So like, yeah, how do you protect that? And so making sure that you get the work done.
it's a very interesting thing that as someone who's still very new to the career, it's a juggling act. It's a balance. You can't always love every single project that you're on,
Mm,
but I do still believe that there's a level of integrity that you need to have in your art. And so for me, if a project really does not align with who I am or my values and stuff like that, I won't take the project.
yeah.
You know, there is, I feel, with a lot of creatives, there is a line that you set for yourself, and if something does cross that line, it's better not to take it than to take it. With projects where we're not 100% aligned, I think it really comes back to that communication I was saying before. For me, um, I love to get like documents and pictures, mood boards and things in order so we can see before we even go into a studio or on location, or, a camera's even picked up. We kind of know what we're going for. We've discussed it before. We understand what we're here for. And,
Yeah.
you discuss that wiggle room. You know, a common thing that will happen in a lot of creative circles is, budget to do X thing is X amount of money. Client only has Y amount of money. In those type of things, it really is about discussing about, hey, this is what's possible. This is what we can do. We can still achieve something really great here, but we might have to scale back. Or, if you want to achieve this and you trust me to deliver the vision, we might have to scale forward. Like,
Yeah.
I need to put more in this. And, I feel that a lot of those people who understand those type of things are the ones who the best work and the best product is usually created.
Yeah.
It's always a juggling act that you have to do. Because yeah, at the end of the day, you don't want to compromise your creative integrity, and it's about finding that balance for you.
And yeah, like sometimes saying no to a project can be the hardest thing to do, but like you gotta be true to yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's if that paycheck is nice as well, it's great.
I know, man. Imagine having to say no to money, bro. Like
I know, crazy, bro. Crazy.
you mentioned community before. Like, what role has community played in your journey as a photographer and creative director?
The community has been very like big for me. Obviously, my project is very community focused, you could say, but community for me is just like what's got me through this. Moving here at such a late stage in my life, not having that many friends or people around. Community got me out of the mud. They're the people
Yeah.
who took a chance on me. They're the people who are there for me whenever I'm going through anything in life. You know, I'm hopefully one of those people for people when they're going through things. And once again, you build those relationships, things work out much better. People are willing to help. People want to get things over the finish line. So as a photographer, there is times where it's like, all right, cool. We don't have the budget to do this initial idea. It's like, oh, hey, Dan, I have a favor to ask. Can we
Yeah.
use this? And, you'll be able to get this from me later on. If you can help me here, I'll help you out later on. And, it's those type of people that type of community that really allows us all to succeed. If one person eats, we can all eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how I like to approach things like that. Community has gave me so many different spaces to be in that I've eventually thrived in. A lot of my early work and a lot of my early, I guess you could say, opportunities came directly from community, from just being someone who's around and trying to my best to be a pleasant person when I'm around, and we connect more than just the work. And then that leads to bigger and better things. Yeah.
That community piece, we all need it. We all need our communities. So, like, yeah, I completely agree with that. If you could capture anyone, if you could capture anybody dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a hard one because I think I know a handful of people I would like to do alive, but I think trying to think of someone who I really would love to capture who's dead.
I mean, okay, feel
Oh,
free to give us, let's say, one of each.
this is hard. Like, this is actually a lot harder than I thought because I don't really, I don't think of these hypotheticals as much. Man, I just really love like athletes and musicians. So I'm just trying to think who inspires me in that way. I don't know. That's a controversial one. It's a controversial one. You know what? I don't
We
even care. You know
we love
what?
controversy, bring it.
Give me Michael Jackson, bro.
For real.
Like, truly one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like he would just bring a flair. Oh, probably Michael Jackson or Prince.
Yeah.
I think those two, if we're talking dead, they would just bring a certain flair and a certain energy that I would love to be around. I think the type of photos or the type of piece that you could make and like the stuff that's in their mind would be amazing. I think probably one of those two. And then alive, I'm going to choose another two musicians, I think. Right now,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to give you another dead and another alive. I'm
Okay.
going to give you Louis Armstrong.
Ooh, yep, yep.
Probably like one of my favorite musicians ever. And then I'm also gonna give. There's a guy in America. I forgot exactly what state he's in. Called Toro y Moi. He's half black, half Filipino, if I'm right. And basically, he's one of my inspirations as a creative because his whole philosophy is just do whatever the fuck you want, really.
Yeah.
He's a musician. He's a graphic designer. He does his own music videos. He one album, he'll go from doing folk and country, then he'll do a rap album, then he'll do a metal album. And I guess one thing that I really love about creativity, or just a little bit more into me, I told you music was my first love. I played piano and stuff when I was younger, and I used to draw and do all this type of stuff. I really just don't think that we as people are supposed to just do one thing. There's so many things
Yeah.
in life to explore and to do, and that you don't have to put yourself in a box. So someone like Toro, him just being like, I'm going to be a graphic designer this year. That's going to be my main focus. And then the next year, it's like, okay, I'm putting out some music this year and making a successful career out of that. I would love to shoot him. His album covers are always so killer and, psychedelic. So yeah, I think those are some of my answers. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I'm trying to give you one more.
Go for it, man. Take your time.
I love her music, so I'm going to say Clairo.
Okay.
I don't know. I just feel like she's the type of person where you could go into a room, get a good idea, and she would just love to execute it. So probably like a Clairo. Yeah.
Dope. Dope. What's been your favorite? I know we talked about the hardest lessons in your journey so far, but what's been the favorite part of your journey so far? What's a key highlight of yours?
Favorite part of this creative journey so far is definitely the people. At this point in my life, my closest friends are creatives themselves. I moved here at a certain age where, people's friendship groups and whatever are formed. And I remember being, like a 21-year-old, started going to like the bars and all that type of stuff and like not really like knowing too many people. And then meeting other people who were like, oh yeah, I take photos or I model or I paint or whatever. And just having those common interests and then building those friendships, like one of my closest friends right now, who was, my housemate a few years ago, we met just through an event that was being hosted by another friend. We got along so well just because we were both photographers and were taking photos of that event, which ended up forming into what I believe is going to be, a lifelong friendship. So
Yeah.
the best part of this entire creative journey is the people I've met along the way. As corny as that sounds, it actually is true. Like, these are the people who surround me on the daily, who check up on me, who, you know, outside of the creative process. And then these are also the people where if I do have a project, and I can get them on, they're the first people I think of in my mind.
Mm.
So definitely the best part of this journey has been the people. And I don't even really think it's that close, to be honest. I don't really think there's anything else. And then I guess the other thing would be maybe, at the end of the day, I've been privileged to sometimes shoot just a couple of famous or cool people. So, it's always interesting to walk into a room and it's some celebrity whose music, you were listening to 10 minutes ago, and then you
Yeah.
have a conversation with them and they're like actually a normal person. So that's always kind of like a weird one, but it's always kind of funny. Yeah.
Who's like the most famous person you've shot?
Famous in different circles, I would say, this is a random one. I think I think this will probably be the most famous, but like not the coolest for me. I shot Justin Trudeau.
No. What?
That was a random one.
What do you mean? Hang on.
Yeah, that's probably the most random one, but like I think that probably is the most famous. And then
Was he still prime minister at that point?
no, this was recent. This would have been the last months.
Snap.
Yeah, so that was recent, and I think maybe I had a great opportunity once again through relationship and community. I was able to shoot I think Denzel Curry last year, which is I think it's
Yo.
probably I think that's probably the most interesting one to a lot
Yeah.
of people. And yeah, he was just like a really nice guy, and realizing that a lot of these people are just like normal people. They just happen to be really good at something.
Yeah. Damn. From Justin Trudeau to Denzel Curry, like that is versatility, my guy. That is
I try, bro.
Yo, I love that. Nash, man, it's been so good having you on the show. We're gonna round this out on every episode of Before We Take Off. As everyone knows, we ask our 3 signature questions. So Nash, it's a round of rapid fire. I'm just going to ask you these 3 questions. Don't even think about it. Just first answer that comes to your head. Are you ready?
Cancelled.
Hey, man. Look, we've had some interesting ones, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right. First question. What is something you would do again?
Travel to a country I've never been to before.
Okay. What country comes to mind?
I want to go to like Switzerland. I want to go to some random hilly snowtop place. Like just some
Yeah.
random middle of the nowhere country. Yeah,
All right. Don't. On the other side, what is something you would never do again?
never do again. Well, you're really putting me on the spot here. Like, I guess I don't think. But I'm trying to think. What do I don't know if I would say regret. Not go on holiday with about $50 in my pocket, but that's a story for a different time.
We're gonna have to have a part 2 of this podcast just to get that story, because that's
Yeah, probably that.
all right. All right. And
Yeah.
finally, what is one piece of advice you wish someone gave you at the start of your journey?
Be focused, be organized. And honestly, I think at the start of this journey, I still had a lot of self-doubt in myself, and that's why, why not me kind of like started to become such a big thing to me.
Mm.
Honestly, apart from probably your mom or your dad, that type of thing, your biggest support has always got to be yourself. So, I try not to doubt myself now, but I would tell myself even way back then to stop doubting myself then, because I never thought I would be in the position that I'm in right now. So that would be the thing I would tell my younger self for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I love that, Nash. I love that. Hey, man, thank you so much for jumping on the show. It's been so good to chat with you. And like I said, I definitely think there's room for a part 2, so you can tell us a little bit more about that $50. But in the meantime, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell them what it is, where it is.
So you can find a lot of my work on Instagram right now at Panashe Nathan. And then you can also find a lot of my other work on my website, which is www.panashemugayapi.com. That's my legal, that's my government. And then there's going to be a couple of things, some announcements on those pages soon. So then you'll be able to see some more of my work coming up soon. Yeah.
Let's go. And we'll be keeping a look at. And as always, the details will be in the episode description. So make sure to go check out Nash online, on the Instagrams, on his website, and keep in touch with his upcoming news, which we all cannot wait for. Ladies and gentlemen, that is another episode of Before We Take Off. Thank you so much for joining us for the entry of season 2. I am Mufaro, that is Panashe, and you are all wonderful. Thank you once again. Nash, I appreciate you, bro.
No, thank you so much. Appreciate you too.
You know what? We gonna, we about to take off. Yeah, you know what? We about to, we about to